Hello and a warm welcome back to the channel of Car Nonsense. Now, you saucy types in the comments often ask me what my type is. I don't really have a type of the opposite sex, but if I did, it'd probably be something like this. A Kuga that's had a facelift. Yes, that was a bad joke, I'm sorry, but yeah, this is a Ford that's not an EV. It's Ford's stalwart SUV that's now not available for diesel, but instead a petrol engine, a hybrid, and a plug-in hybrid. Now, I used to run the pre-facelift version of this car as a company car, which was a diesel, so I'm going to have a good idea of what the improvements have been like. I've done about 250 miles in this car. I'm going to tell you if it's any good. Let's go. Now, I know we all love to whinge about prices. Let's start by talking about the price of the new Ford Kuga. This car costs from £32,500. That gets you an entry-level car in titanium trim with a 1.5 litre petrol engine with 150 horsepower. It's also got a manual gearbox, which I don't really like, in an SUV. Then you've got ST Line. Then you've got this active trim, and range-topping one is ST Line X. That costs £39,500. But you know where I'm going with this. The price only goes one way, and it's going up because, as I said, there are no diesels. You have two hybrid choices, a 180 horsepower front-wheel drive self-charging hybrid. Then if you want four-wheel drive, like this one, it goes up to 183 horsepower, and then there's plug-in hybrid on top. That plug-in hybrid is only 100 quid more than the four-wheel drive full hybrid though. So it's not actually a very expensive PHEV in the range scheme of things, but it is expensive overall. An active version like this in that four-wheel drive hybrid, 42 grand. So it smashes through the luxury car tax barrier here in the UK. This one's got a load of options on it because it's a press car. So it's got the winter pack, the technology pack, a tow bar, a sunroof, that's 1,100 quid, and red paint. It makes it £46,000. Yeah, I can smell the burning keyboards. Fresh hatred in the comments. Now, the big news about the Kuga's facelift is, perhaps unsurprisingly, its face has got a strong, angry, bold new look. The chrome of the old version is gone. Instead, you've got these adaptive LED headlights, which are meaner and angrier, and you can actually upgrade those to matrix ones, which point at road signs, junctions, and undazzle other cars. Now, I really like the new bold black grille as well. You actually get a different design depending on the trim level you pick. Ford has committed absolute marketing sin by referring to this little light strip, which is part of the £900 technology pack, as a coast-to-coast light bar. That just means it goes from one side to the other, but they've paid someone to make up coast to coast. It's horrible. But anyway, yeah, big white Ford badge. It looks really bold. As I said, the chrome is gone. And this lucid red paint, sorry, van driver interrupted me. And this lucid red paint is lovely. It's £600, but it's actually no longer on the Ford configurator. So I think they've maybe run out of Al Murray's old discarded pub landlord blazers to grind up to make it. But you can still get it in some bright greens and blues and whites and greys. I think it looks aggressive, especially at night when this all lights up. It's quite a cool looking thing. I think it looks more like a new car than a facelift, but as we'll find out at the back and inside, it's still the old Kuga underneath. Dunning-Kruger effect. That doesn't make any sense, does it? Ford has semi-successfully tarted up the Kuga's interior, mostly by giving it this new Sync 4 13-inch infotainment system, which has twice the computing power of the previous Kuga. But that is a bit like saying you've upgraded from a 386 to a 486 so you can play Doom shareware. But anyway, I'm old. Yeah, it's got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But despite that computing power, it's not actually the fastest thing, most responsive thing to use. And lots of stuff is buried in the menus, such as turning off the speed limiter, which we'll talk about in the driving bit, speed limit warning, sorry. You don't have physical climate controls anymore either, which is a shame. You've got a row of omnipresent buttons at the bottom, but it is still, meaning you've got to touch the screen to change the temperature. You've got some shortcuts down there for the heated windscreen and the 360 camera and self-parking, as well as your driving modes. And underneath, you can probably just about see, there's a USB-A and a USB-C and a 12-volt, and a wireless phone charger, which overheats my iPhone 12 Pro Max all the time. So it's not ventilated, and then my phone says, no, I'm not charging anymore, I'm too hot. Gear knob there, handbrake, cup holders, and then in here, you've got a little tray and a big deep well for losing Haribo in. You can slide this forward, but you then can't angle it up, which is a little bit annoying. Door bins down there, that's a small fruit shoot bottle, but it will take a big bottle as well. Digital dashboard, most lovely. It shows you everything you need, and it shows you your range and your power flow, and gives you braking coach information as well to say, well done, you're putting energy back into your battery and not killing polar bears. Head-up display there, it's a little plastic thing, it's fine. It's probably worth the extra if you want to keep your eyes on the road. That's about it. It's a little bit plasticky in here compared to its rivals still though, but at least it's got some high-tech stuff with that infotainment system. It's actually quite a pleasant place to sit. It's comfortable. I don't mind doing long journeys in this. One word on build quality in this press car, this handle has got the flop. It's slightly cracked up there. I don't know if it's going to focus, but that eventually flops down when you're driving along, which just feels a little bit cheap. Sunglasses holder up there. And that is the cabin of the new Ford Kuga. All right, backseat space on the facelifted Kuga hasn't really changed. That means it is still very, very good. Look, I've got loads of knee room, I've got foot room, and I've got headroom, even with the optional panoramic sunroof. So no real comfort foibles here. We've also got a very flat floor, easy for me to say. No, I've had a few, no I haven't. And that is good for your middle seat passengers. You've also got heated rear seats in this one with a winter pack, I think, and also 2 USB-Cs. Now, my other things of note are that the seats do recline, which is very nice, and you can slide them forwards to give yourself an extra 150 litres of boot space, but otherwise, it's a bit of a plastic fest in here, a bit like the front, but there are some door bins there. It doesn't feel as premium as something like the new Tiguan or the Kia Sportage, but unlike the Sportage, it doesn't feel like a bit of a tank. Visibility out the back is quite good, and that doesn't go down any further than that, but it's still all right. You can still see out. My kids don't get car sick in it. Hooray! I should also point out, in the name of sensibilities, Sense and Sensibility, ISOFIX points are really easy to access. They're not hidden behind flaps. We don't like flaps. No, we do like flaps, just not on our ISOFIX covers. Flap chat with Tim. Now the Kuga is 4.64 metres long, so that makes it a little bit longer than a Tiguan or a Sportage, but it's still roughly in that same class of cars. You've got a whole new range of wheel designs for this facelift. I think it looks quite nice in this active trim, which basically jacks it up by 10mm at the front, 5mm at the back over a normal Kuga, and you get these black plastic bits of cladding, but it looks very lifestyle. And in case you're wondering where it's made in Valencia, in Spain, on the production line next to the oranges. Now, call me cynical Cindy, but I think Ford's design team ran out of budget by the time they got to the back, because this looks quite similar, if not identical, to the pre-facelift Kuga. Again, you've got the super white, bright Ford lettering there. That's about it, really. And being an active version, you've got some silver bits down there, and a hybrid all-wheel drive badge there to differentiate from the hybrid front-wheel drive version. Now, the boot, 536 litres. I've been away with my family of 2 young kids. The engine just started, made me jump. For a weekend at Centre Park, and we had no problem getting young kids' bikes and all that stuff in here. Now you've got some levers to fold the rear seats down. You've got a 12-volt socket up here. This one, you have got the tow bar as well, which might make an appearance in a second. You've got some space under there. Look at that. It's not a semi. I don't have to touch it to get it erect. It's just there, and you can tow up to 2.1 tonnes on this 4-wheel drive hybrid and on the plug-in hybrid, a bit less on the 1.5 petrol and on the lesser powered front-wheel drive hybrid. Have I said hybrid enough? But anyway, it's a pretty decent towing capacity. What I don't like though is the old Kuga parcel shelf. I think Ford are being clever. This is a very lightweight material, also probably very cheap, and it kind of clips into these hooks up here, which are made of plastic, and they don't hold it in very securely. So if you've loaded your boot up nice and high, and then this touches anything in the boot, which it will do, that kind of unpops and it just dangles, and it's a bit annoying when you come to open the boot. That is a clever bit of design that doesn't really work very well. Right, we're going to start with some urban driving in the facelifted Kuga. You put it in brake, press the start button, twist it into D, and it doesn't really make any noise, this hybrid version, because obviously it starts in electric power. And I've actually been quite impressed with how this hybrid system works. It uses a 2.5 litre petrol engine. It uses the Atkinson cycle, and it's got obviously an electric motor as well. So it does decent speeds on electric power alone, and it actually does really improve efficiency. And when the engine kicks in, like it just has there, it's not really that noticeable. It's not a loud, gruff engine. The only time you really hear it and really kind of get annoyed by it is when you really put your foot down, because it's using a CVT gearbox. And normally CVT gearboxes are my idea of hell. Continuously variable transmissions. Think of it as a scooter gearbox. So only when you really plant your foot that it makes an unpleasant noise and the speed catches up. But in normal driving, I've done about 250 miles in this car, it's actually just fine. It kind of gets on with it, and it switches between electric power and petrol power seamlessly. Now, as I said, I've done 241 miles in this car, to centre parks and back, because that is my life these days. And of those 241 miles, 80 have been on electric power. So you can see the kind of percentage of your driving that it's going to do on electric power, and it always tells you, which I think is quite useful and quite satisfying. And that was mostly motorways as well, so it's mostly sitting at 70 miles an hour. So it is good. My overall MPG has been 48, which, you know, that's what I used to get out of my diesel Kuga. So actually, yes, this hybrid is a decent replacement for the old diesel Kuga. And I had to put AdBlue in that diesel Kuga all the flipping time. But anyway, this has still got a big fuel tank as well. It's kind of 54 litres or something like that. So you do get about 500 miles of range out of this, if not a bit more. Right, let's talk about other driving stuff. The ride. It is a little bit firm. It's not too bad, but as you can see, my child seat's rattling in the back. But it's just when you get onto a twisty road that this Kuga does feel better, more exciting to drive than the rest of its competitors, such as the Kia Sportage, the Hyundai Tucson, the Volkswagen Tiguan. I think it's because it doesn't have much body roll, and it's got really nice steering for a modern SUV with an electric rack. It's just really enjoyable to drive. And when I've not had the kids in this, I've been hooning down some country roads at probably speeds and corners that I shouldn't be doing. You get a bit of tyre squeal, and it's all quite entertaining. But even with the battery in this, which is only a small 1.1 kilowatt hour battery, it just does the job of driving really naturally. Now, I might have mentioned this already, but being a model year 2024 car, it has got a speed limiter that switches back on every time you stop the car and start it. Not a speed limiter, sorry, it's just a speed limit warning. And to turn it off, it is one of the worst systems to turn off. Right, you've got to touch up there, then I've got to touch features. Now I am doing a junction here, so I'm a bit distracted. Then driving assistance, wait a second. Speed limit warning, which is in a big list of things, then turn it off, and then press close. How many touches was that? That is too many, Ford. Give us a shortcut button. Maybe there is one. Maybe I've just missed it. But yeah, this is a nice SUV to drive. It's one of my favourite in the handling stakes. The hybrid system works well. And as I've said, long journeys do actually work in its favour as well. Now, you can get this as a front-wheel drive hybrid with 180 horsepower. This is the four-wheel drive hybrid with 183. 0 to 60 in this is 8.3 seconds. It never feels slow. It never feels perhaps as fast as 8.3 might sound. And then there's the plug-in hybrid, which is 7.3 seconds to 60. It's got 240 odd horsepower. That can do about 38 to 40 miles on electric driving alone. On electric driving, and that's got a small petrol tank, about 42 litres. So that won't have the same range as this, but it's about the same price. Usually PHEVs are much more expensive, but it's only about 100 quid more than this self-charging hybrid. There you go, that bumpy road. It's actually coping pretty well. Came down here on a Harley Davidson yesterday and had to realign my pelvis, but this is okay. Now, wind noise and refinement on a motorway is really quite decent. It's not class leading, but it didn't get on my nerves. It's just really easy to live with. It is like the Kuga that I had back in 2022. That had a 1.5 litre diesel engine, that got a bit thrashy. But as I said, this is more efficient. And if anything, it's a bit more pleasant to drive, and it's four-wheel drive. Yes, other things to talk about. You've got a new generation of adaptive cruise control that can brake for corners, junctions and things like that. It's an option though. I haven't really used it that much, but it works well at low speeds and it can crawl for you in traffic and all that stuff. So it's very easy to drive. I've got a head-up display as part of the technology pack. That's just a flippy up plastic bit of screen, which I don't really love those ones, but it does the job well enough. You can easily turn the lane keeping assist off, by the way, on the steering wheel. I just wish there was a button for the speed limit warning as well. Yeah, it's not really changed. It's still one of the best driving SUVs in its class, yet it's still pretty comfortable. And that was a partridge. That was very nearly the end of a partridge, and it wasn't in a pear tree. It was in a Kuga's grill. Oh yes, I should point out there are some driving modes. You press a button down here and then have to use the touchscreen to select them. You can't just keep pressing the button. So that is more touchscreen distraction. You've got normal, eco, sport, slippery and trail off-roading. I tried sport mode and it just made the CVT in the engine just... Yeah, it's too thrashy. Just leave it at normal. I'd say the 360 camera is very good actually. It's very sharp and it's very easy to choose which side of the car you want to look at if you want to tap your wheels so you can not curb it when you're parking it. All right, time to sum up my thoughts on the facelifted Ford Kuga. I've always liked the way it drives, and Ford hasn't messed with that. It's still one of the best driving SUVs in this class. I'd say probably the best driving SUV in this class. It's good fun. Now, downsides, it is expensive now, but then so is everything. But seriously, 46 grand for a Ford Kuga, exactly like this one. Feels like they are extracting the urine a little bit. But yeah, I think the bold new look works. It looks like a whole new car. It looks more premium, it looks more aggressive. I quite like it, and I have, as I say, always appreciated the Kuga's qualities. Now, the ride is still a little bit tough for me. It's not too bad, but there are better riding rivals out there. The Tiguan and the Kia Sportage feel posher inside. This is still a bit Ford plasticky. The new infotainment is good, but not the best. It's still a little bit slow. But the hybrid system works really well, and it's economical. And as I've said in my driving bit, it's as economical as I ever got the diesel to be, getting 48 mpg on a motorway run. Ain't bad really for a 2.5 litre petrol engine under there. So yeah, it's a real world, do it all kind of family SUV. If you're in the market for one, give this a look alongside the new Tiguan, which I didn't massively love. In fact, I would rate this higher than the Tiguan because it has annoyed me less. I'm going to give it 8 Tim Roadies out of 10. Thank you for watching. If you've liked this video, please hit like. It massively helps me out. Subscribe to the channel. Go down to the comments and give me, I'm going to call Ford British, just to annoy everyone, the British word for, that looks quite angry, mate. Have you got a shank in your pants or something? Don't arrest me.